Previously on the Xennial Odyssey podcast. To focus on this group, not just because it's my age group. I also think it's important to focus on this group because this group is now a part of that ever-important demographic. We are that demographic that is the linchpin of the economy. Hello, everybody. My name is Bob Rox, bro. Some people call me Bobby Rox. You can call me whatever you like. And I wanted to welcome you to the first Xennial Odyssey podcast. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as the Odyssey or simply XOP. I just want to talk about what the focus of the show will be. As it says in the name, focus of the show will be about the Xennial micro generation. Those are people born roughly between 1977 and 1983. It is made up of people that are also part of Millennial generation and Generation X. People who have stereotypical ties to both, but you don't really fit into either. And this topic is important to me because I myself fall into this category. I am by definition a millennial, but I've never felt like a millennial, to be honest with anybody. I've felt I've had ties to Gen X. There are certain things that I've benefited from being a millennial. But that being said, I never really felt I fit into either. And so with that, I think it was about 5-6 years ago, once it was the first time I heard the term Xennial, and I saw the descriptions of that. I said, well, yeah, that fits me. That describes me better than being a millennial and how that describes me, or Gen X, how that would describe people who are Gen X. I also said, well, how millennial is it to just create a micro generation for people like me who are just unhappy with the fact that we're millennials? I've come to terms with it. I can deal with it now. It's fine. For other millennials out there, especially ones that are my age, people don't realize that millennials are coming up on 40 years of age at the earliest in the early several years. And I think it's really important to focus on this group. I feel we were focused on when we were in our late teens and early 20s. And I feel like it's still around. And now we have, Generation Z, which are people that are considerably younger than me at this point. But at the same time, it seems like the millennial moniker has gone on, and it just keeps talking about people of a certain age, far beyond, in my opinion, far beyond what the millennial generation is by definition. But getting back to us in our early ages, these Xennials, quote unquote, I think it's important to focus on this group, not just because it's my age group. I also think it's important to focus on this group because this group is now a part of that ever-important demographic. We are that demographic that is the linchpin of the economy. We are the linchpin of the buying and selling and pushing of products. We are the linchpin of politics. And that group is aged 34 to 54. I believe that's the ever important demographic. But I feel like in our modern times, there's no focus on us, and we have become lost. We get lost in the shuffle. We are a lost generation, or a lost micro generation, if you will. And so my goal for this podcast is that I want to provide a medium for myself. I want to provide that medium for people who are similar to me. I want it to be an open forum for people who agree and disagree, or people that are just outside of that 1977 to 1983 window. Maybe they feel that they belong to. Well, then let's have a discussion about it. let's define ourselves. Let's be the ones saying what our traits are, saying ultimately who we are. I'll give you a little background on myself beyond just the fact that I'm a Xennial, Millennial, or what have you. I am the youngest of 3 children. I was born in 1982. Born and raised in Massachusetts, in the town of East Bridgewater. East Bridgewater is right next to the city of Brockton. It's about 45, 50 minutes from Boston, about 50 minutes from Providence, Rhode Island, about an hour from Worcester. And those are the 3 largest cities in New England. And in that there's roughly about 8 million people that live there. So you get everything. You get suburbs, you get city, you get rural, you get everything, and every walk of life and all kinds of cultures in that. And I feel that all has influenced me. I am of an age where I grew up as a child in the analog age, and I became a teenager and a young adult as our society switched over to the digital age. And I think that has been very influential on myself and people of my age. And these are things that I would like to talk about. We can dedicate specific episodes to that. And there's a lot of different areas and directions that I can go in, but seeing how this is the first episode, it doesn't really make sense to me to just say, we're going to go here, we're going to go there, we're going to do all this stuff. I don't think that benefits you even as a listener. So what I'll do is I will talk about kind of where we'll start, where I'd like it to go, and then we can go from there. I've reached out to people to do the podcast with me. Some of that is by my own admission. I don't feel like I could carry this by myself. I feel that having someone to co-lead with me, someone to help facilitate with me, is beneficial. And I know a lot of people that are just, they're very entertaining and can balance out me, or they can balance out the fact that I kind of can come across as dry, or I can come across as dull, even though I hope I'm not coming across as dull. So maybe we can get them aboard at some point. We won't dwell on it. But one thing, speaking of some of these people that I would love to have them on here, is I know many people who are entrepreneurs in some way or another. And I love the fact that is a trait of the Xennial generation. I love the fact that we are looked at as hardworking go-getters with exceptional amounts of drive. And we want to be our own bosses, and we want to succeed. And we're fine with failing as long as the end goal is that we succeed, that we're progressing towards something better, our ultimate goal. And so I feel that what I will do, especially at the start of the podcast, is that I will bring on entrepreneurs that I know. I know entrepreneurs that are in ultimate fighting, that are barbers, that are comedians, that are influencers, that are journalists, that are bodybuilders, that are fellow podcasters, all walks of life. And perfect world scenario, if we could get all of them on here for individual podcasts or shows or a series to start this, I feel like, number one, that would be a great place to start forming the voice, a voice beyond my own, a voice I'm helping to assist in, but letting people of my age talk for themselves and ourselves. And that's how we start defining ourselves. Another thing I would love to do is I would love to play music on here. And the reason for that is my first kind of adventure, dipping my toe into podcasting or radio, is when I was in college, and even after college, I had a friend. His name was Pat McDonough, and he had a 90s radio show on 91.5 WBIM, Bridgewater State University's college radio station. His show was called Where You Been? And it started really as an alternative rock of 90s. And then I would go on there and he would have me on, and I would be nervous because I thought the world was listening, and it wasn't. And I would make every cardinal sin. I would chew gum. I would have my soda close to the microphone. I'd bang on things. I mean, it took me a while. And then once I got comfortable, I found my stride, and I started to actually focus on what the point of the show is. And that was the music I picked, which was influential to music from the early 2000s and the 2010s, and talking about why I picked it, why I felt it was influential, and make that connection to the artists that it directly influenced. When that show ended in about 2013, Pat, myself, and a friend of mine, Remy, who may or may not come on the show, and I would love it if he does, but he has engagements that he has to attend to, so I understand that. All of our lives get busy. But back to Pat. So Pat ended the show when he graduated, and we had always talked about doing a podcast where we'd play music similar to the setup of what Where You Been was. And we were all gung-ho for it. We're like, absolutely, yeah, let's do that. Let's conquer the world. And then life for all of us took us in different directions. And unfortunately for Pat, about a year later, he was diagnosed with a rare form of liver cancer called fibromyalgia. It's got a long name that's 3 words. That is the first word. That's the only one I can really say. But he fought very hard to maintain his life and to survive. And unfortunately, in 2017, he passed away from complications due to his cancer. And we never had a chance. We reconnected a few times, but we never had a chance to sit down and do this. So one reason I would love to play music, and I'm not talking a lot of music. I'm anticipating that this podcast will be 30 minutes each episode. So maybe one song an episode is what I'm talking about. But my hope is that it would be artists that he would be into. Independent artists that are on the up and coming. Maybe they're not on major labels. Maybe they're just breaking out. But they would be through Soundstripe. That's where I get my music for my intros, my outros, any kind of commercials I would do, any sound effects. I would get them through Soundstripe. It's a site that I pay for, and that money goes directly to the independent artist. And the benefit of that is it's royalty-free music because of that. And down the road, I can do tutorials, either podcasts or videos, where I can show you what I do with that, the different ways you can download it. There's specific ways to download it if you're going to use it in a video for YouTube, for example, to get around the content ID. And there's certain ways to use the songs in the sense that I am for this podcast. And I feel like that's my way to pay homage to Pat every episode and almost kind of, in a way, make it feel like he's here with us. And making sure that his legacy lives on. But other than that, this format will really not be a music show. It'll be mostly driven by content, by conversations, by just me droning on and on and on. I'm kidding. I really am. But ultimately, the goal is that people of my age, maybe who have felt like they didn't fit in and felt lonely and lost at some point in their lives, which, to be honest, I have, can get some feeling of connection. Now, with that being said, I'd like to take this opportunity to play one such song, and then when we come back, I can talk about it a little bit and then kind of continue on about things about myself and things about the show, things about how I'm learning through trial and error. This is honestly my 3rd attempt at first episode. I've done some recordings, and I'm fine with the trial and error and listening back and listening to my voice, which I hate. I like my voice. I don't think I'm alone here, but I like my voice when I'm speaking, but I absolutely hate listening to myself on a recording or when I'm doing editing. So that gets me out of my comfort zone, is having to listen to my voice in like post-production. And that's another hope that, we'll kind of get outside of our comfort zones a little bit in a healthy way, not in a dangerous way, to grow. And with that said, let's go and listen to a song. I'll talk about the artist after the song. I'll talk about the name of the song, why I picked it, and then we'll go back into talking about what we were talking about. So when I hear you again, just remember, we're listening to the Xennial Odyssey podcast, the XOP with Bobby Rox. Welcome to the Odyssey. Enjoy the ride.
Child grew up faster than you really had to. Watch out with all that finger pointing. Got FOMO looking at you. Skinnies on the boulevard. Raised up, learning the hard way. But your scars don't define you. Now your scars don't define you. All of it comes down to this one thing. All that you have is this one. Your mind, heartbeats for something more, bloodstream to the core. Now is the only time, now is where you'll find. All of it comes down to this one thing. All that you have is this one. Believe
Okay, so I lied. I played an extra song. Deal with it. It's got a good vibe. Both of them have a good vibe. They both make me feel good. The first one was What Makes Your Heart Beat by The Night Driver. And that last one was California Love instrumental by Marie. Not to be confused with California Love by Dr. Dre and Tupac. What I like about What Makes Your Heart Beat is it has its little 80s vibe. It's got synthesizers. They're throwing out 90s references to 90s kids like myself. And really having a sound like Destroyer. And for people who don't know who Destroyer is, he is a singer-songwriter. He did solo stuff, but he's mostly known for being in the New Pornographers. It's a Canadian indie band. And I love his voice and his style. I would say 21 Pilots, but I don't like 21 Pilots. There's a little bit of the cadences there, but other than that, that's the only comparison I'm gonna make. And it grooved, had a good feel about it. But that last one, I mean, to me, that could have easily been the backing track to an Aaliyah song. I could have just imagined her voice going up and down and soaring all over that song, as well as it could be a backing track to an indie R&B or hip-hop artist now. So it really has that timeless vibe to it. And it's got that 70s feel, and I can go on and on about genres of music and everything. But I won't. So where were we? We were talking about kind of where we're going to go with this show. So definitely going to reach out to people, see if we can get them to come in and we can interview them so they can talk about their experiences as being that ever important late 30s to early 40s demographic, where they feel like they fit in, where they don't feel like they fit in, how they feel that has influenced their choices in life, and especially related to whatever businesses they have. So hopefully we can get some people in here. I know plenty of people that are as entertaining and informative simultaneously that it would definitely be worth our while. So with that said, I will do a little teaser. So when I finally do post my podcasts, I will put out little teasers, and I will incorporate that into the intros to the show too. So, for example, on the next podcast, I will take some snippets from this podcast, and I'll take the little teaser I dropped already, and that'll be a teaser for the next one. And it'll have a similar intro, but it'll primarily be just sitting down and having a one-on-one with a interesting entrepreneurial individual who is in their late 30s to early 40s. A Xennial, if you will. We will talk about similarities in upbringing. We'll talk about differences. We will talk about education. We'll talk about every single thing in life that led, or we feel that led to them being where they are today. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to letting my hair down. And if you know me, you know that I have no hair. So that is a joke. And I mean, except for my bangs, I'll never get rid of my bangs. But in all honesty, I really am looking forward to just sitting down, making it as comfortable as can be for the other person and myself. Because I do know of the people I've reached out to, some of them do have anxieties about talking into a microphone or listening to their voice playback. And I've told them that we can do dry runs, we can do practices. I have no problem with that, especially if it's after my 9-to-5 job. I have no problem taking that time and getting them as comfortable as they can be, to be as natural as they can be, to express themselves and create some content that is meaningful to you out there. For example, there is one person in particular, and if they're the first person to come onto the podcast, that would be amazing. But they are a jack of all trades. They're a mental health counselor. They are a certified personal trainer. They are a professional bodybuilder. They are certified to do Reiki and yoga. And if you don't know what those are, when they come on, we're going to talk more about it. I bring up this person in particular because they have time and time again explained to me their anxiety about coming on to a radio show or a podcast and having a conversation. Their worry is that they'll stumble over their words, that they'll stutter, that they won't have good flow. And I've sat with them and I've gone over practicing thing, and we've gotten the silliness out, and I've let them know listen, this isn't supposed to be something that is aversive. This isn't supposed to be something that is painful. This is something that we can do and enjoy and get ourselves out there. And in all honesty, I would really love to get the brands that these people who I know in my personal life out there to as many people as possible, because I enjoy a lot of the things that they offer. And another teaser there, because I'm not going to say exactly what I enjoy. I'll save that for when they're on. One last thing I wanted to touch upon before we end the podcast for the episode is how often I will be putting out content. How often will I be putting out podcasts? And as of right now, I feel that this format is good on a weekly basis. So I know at launch, I have several podcasts already ready to go. And while those are being listened to and those are out there in the internet world, I will be working on other podcasts. So the goal is that we will be releasing podcasts on a weekly basis. But obviously, as of this podcast, we have several that are out there. We will be doing interviews with people. I have been in touch with my friend Remy, and he has ideas for his own podcast, his direction that he would like to take a podcast, and I'm more than happy to help him with that and kind of link the two. For people who don't know him, he is a character, to say the least. And I also plan on doing that with some or many of the entrepreneurs that I have or will have on the show. If they have a podcast, if they want to start a podcast, then I'm more than happy to help them with that. And again, I believe I said it earlier, I plan on doing partnerships with other podcasters, whether they're new or whether they're seasoned, whether they've been doing podcasts for a long time, because I think that's a great way to grow, and that's a great way to kind of introduce you to different people and to get myself introduced to different people. But with that said, I think this is a good place to wrap it up for this podcast. So if you have stuck it out for the almost 30 minutes, and if you like the music, or if you have any feedback, or if you want to come back, I really appreciate it, and thank you very much. And hopefully you will come on again and want to join this next Odyssey we go on. But as far as for this Odyssey has come to its conclusion. Until next time, this is Bobby Rox, host of the Xennial Odyssey podcast. See ya.